Welcome to the Living Proof Recovery Podcast. We're your host. I'm Evan. This is Brian.
What's up, guys?
So tonight we're going to talk with Brian a little bit about his experience in treatment and just the things he's done along the way. So we'll go ahead and get going right into it. So Brian, when was your first experience with, let's say, inpatient treatment?
Inpatient?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that would have been, it was like 2020
Okay.
for inpatient. So I went to Landmark. It was a 35-day program. But it's not really 35 days. It's really 37 days because they don't count the first day and they don't count your last day.
Right.
So, and then I would end up being there next. I was there like 38 days. That's what I ended up being there. So it was 2020. I had went to an outpatient briefly, a few months before that. But that was my first experience with inpatient treatment. And it was, I didn't really know what to expect, walking in there.
Right.
I was scared. I was like, what is this place? Like, I had no idea of what like day to day would look like, or how the detox process looked like, or just the intake process. They got pretty thorough with the intake process there. It was a little different than what they did at RAC. It was kind of like, basically get naked,
Spread your butt cheeks.
spread them cheeks,
Yeah,
boy.
spread
You got any contraband?
right.
No, it was a good experience. I didn't really have anything to compare it to, but I met a lot of good people there. It was my second experience was a lot different. We'll put it that way. So, but when I went in there, I was beaten down. I thought this is for sure the last time that I'm going to have to do this. The one and only time I'm going to have to do this because these people are crazy in here, and I don't ever want to be in another place like this. Like, I don't think we go to institutions like to be institutionalized, right? Like, I didn't want to, but it was a very, how do I put it? It was lax there. So it was kind of like, if you want to do stuff for your recovery, by all means, show up.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, if you want to sleep too, that's cool.
So there wasn't like real strict structure for like groups.
It was kind of weird because like at times there was. Like it depended on who was working.
Yeah.
Right. So like if this tech is working, your ass better be up. Right.
Yeah.
And in group. But if these techs are working or if these counselors are there, they don't give a shit. So it was kind of like, never really knew what the rules were. Because like one day it's like you can get away with this, and then the next day it's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you here? It's like, well, I've been doing this all week.
Right.
But so a lot of people struggled with that. But I went to everything, because I was dead set that this is going to be a one-time thing for me. Like I'm not going to ever do this again. All right. So, and I remember when I left, there was a counselor that she told me, and it was kind of like, at the time, I thought, oh, that's a really nice thing to say. But looking back, I look at it like, it was kind of like a death nail for me. Like, because she was like, you know what? I think you're going to make it. And I was like, damn right I am.
Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah.
Pump Brian's head up a little bit more.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'm in every group. Yeah. I am going to make it, and
cured.
Yeah. Basically I was like, I've got this. I had that attitude when I left of I've got this,
Yeah.
But there were some, I did, some seeds were planted while I was there, so it wasn't all bad, the amenities weren't great. The food sucked.
Yeah.
Like the food was terrible.
No. And you mentioned that the seeds planted, and it was the same way for me. Like I went to multiple treatment centers, and it was like every time a seed was planted, and then the roots got a little deeper each time. So
Yeah, I made some good connections with some people that I still talk to today.
Mm.
You know, I was able to get a sponsor while I was there, so um, that worked in my favor. You know, to have some sort of plan of action when I left.
Yeah.
You know, so but there were some things about that place that I thought were really good. So like if you were to combine Landmark and the Robert Alexander Center together, just take all the good stuff from both of them, like you would have a really good treatment facility, right? Because one thing that they did there is you had jobs. Everybody had a job,
Okay.
you
That's
know.
that's
So
cool. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought that was really good. And we had what were called pod leaders, right? So basically a service position for
So
two
you
people.
so you were like pod boss.
Pod boss.
Pod
Yeah,
boss.
that's right. That's right. Uh, you want a bag of chips? You
Yeah.
come see the pod boss, right?
Right.
But no, it was like because there was a lot of people there, you know. So I mean, not like a crazy amount, but I'd say there on the men's side we had like a red team and a blue team. So like they would split groups up because there was too many people for like one counselor. So there would be a leader designated for each one. And whenever you came over from detox, it was like, hey, I'm a so and so is the leader or whatever. He's going to give you a job, you know. So usually the new people got the shitty jobs.
So the clients assign the
Yes,
jobs?
yes. So they gave them the responsibility to do that, and it was their job to make sure that everyone was doing their job.
Hmm.
So they had to go around and, you know, why is the bathroom not clean? You know, get
Right.
the fuck out of bed. You know, because and if they didn't, the stuff didn't get done, they would take like privileges away. So it was kind of like an accountability thing.
Yeah.
You know, it was teaching us to be accountable and to do our part.
Mhm.
So, you know, we did like as soon as you move over, it's like so every week in community, you know, we would have an evening community and a morning community, and at night it would be like on say every Wednesday. I don't forget what day it was, but it would be like okay, chores change, they rotate, right? So like okay, who's been on bathroom duty, you know,
Yeah.
and who like so and so's been on bathroom duty for the last week. Do you want to keep that job? And it was always fuck no, I don't want to keep this job,
Right.
right? So it's like okay, new guy, you get bathroom duty, you know,
Yeah.
and which is only fair, you know. So, but that was not a fun chore.
No, I'm sure.
I'll
Cleaning
never,
up after
there was
50 men.
yeah,
and-
there
yeah.
was and just rank, man.
Yeah.
You know, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
this one guy. um, so he was in really bad shape. He had like a walker and stuff, and he was probably middle age. I'd say it's kind of hard to tell when someone's been drinking for a long time how old they really are, but he was probably 45 ish, about my age, you know, at the time, you know. So I remember walking, I'm on bathroom duty, but it's like we would clean the bathrooms in the morning. So I've already cleaned it for the day. And it's like after lunch or something, and I walk in there and I'm like, there's shit all over the floor. Like somebody had shit in the
Yeah.
middle of the floor. And I was like, come on, like really? Like this
Yeah.
is what we're doing, guys? Like this is come on, we're all adults here, you know. And I was like, oh man. So I walk into the stall and it's all over the toilet seat. I mean, it's just everywhere, dude. And I was like, oh, and then there's a trail of it going to the shower.
Oh,
And it's just all in the shower. And I'm like, let's turn the shower on. You know
right.
what I mean? And I'm like, who did this? You know, I come to find out it was like this guy who like he couldn't take care of
Probably
himself.
couldn't control it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he probably didn't need to be in the residential side because he couldn't take care of himself.
Right.
You know, I was just like, come on, like this is. But then I eventually leveled up, right? And I got off that job, and I got the sweetest job. I got the cafeteria job, the highly sought after cafeteria
Right,
job
yeah.
because all you had to do was like
Always dreamed to be a lunch lady.
I know, right? Um, lunch lady man, you know. So, but what that job and the description of that job was after you know breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you would like put the chairs up and wipe tables down and sweep them off the floor. There was two people that did it, But the good thing about it was you got extra food. Because whatever they didn't hand out, they're like, here, do you want these chips? Do you want to? Because they wouldn't just give us that stuff. So I was like, man, I get all this extra Twinkies and,
Right.
Doritos and shit. And, so that was cool. So I did that. And then towards the end, I got voted to be like one of the pod leaders or whatever. So I got to do that, which was good because, like I said, it taught me how to like be accountable, and to try to be responsible and try to help people out and stuff like that. So it kind of gave me a feeling of like what this is like when you're actually helping people
Right.
and not just being all about yourself. Because I'd go around and help people with chores or something like that, or this guy's struggling, let's help him out. It's kind of pod boss stuff.
Yeah.
So, but overall, like it was a pretty good experience, but it was also, I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
I really thought that some of the the clinical material, some of that was lacking at times, because it just seemed like a lot of people were just doing that job because they needed a paycheck. And it didn't seem like there was really any passion coming from anybody.
Yeah.
So because a lot of the people weren't in recovery that worked there, and you could tell.
Right. Yeah. See, I have a couple inpatient experiences, which one in Florida and then, two here, but I've been to Landmark just to speak there, though. I never went through their program, but I've seen the facility, so I know what it looks like there
Mhm.
versus the places I've been to. And I
Have you been
was
to
a
the one in
little
Fern Valley, or just Praxis?
just Praxis.
Okay, it's a little different.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah,
little
just
different.
Praxis. I've
So-
been outside, like out. I've never been into the Fern
Right.
Valley facility, just
So-
outside of it.
I'm pretty sure they've given it an upgrade now, but when I was there, so it used to be a daycare for like Ford employees and stuff, right? So when I got there, I was like, it kind of looks.
You got the ABCs on the wall.
Yeah, basically, I was like, what the hell is going? Where am I? I know I have the maturity level of a small child,
Right.
but y'all got any bubbles I can play with or anything? Like, but it was just kind of. So I go to my room, and they got these short ass beds, bro. Like we're like kids,
like toddler
yeah.
bed.
Like, I'm not a tall guy, I'm like 5'10",
Right.
and my feet are hanging off the bed. Which, I mean, in hindsight, it's like, okay, you should be grateful you had a bed to sleep in. Like,
Right.
beggars can't be choosers, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, what's going on here? Because my roommate was like 6'4",
Yeah.
and he was pissed every night. He was like, I can't fucking sleep in here, all this bullshit. And but I eventually, some people moved out in the room across from me. There was this corner room, and it was like this baller ass room. It was the one room that had 3 beds in it, right? So it was this huge room. Like all the other rooms were fairly small,
Yeah.
So I was like, man, like I'm gonna switch rooms before they move some new guy over and he gets that.
Yeah.
I've paid my dues. I'm
Right.
trying to get this good room. So I was able to move over there, and then Tommy ended up moving into that room too. So I actually talked to him the other day, man. He's doing good.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
he got a new
Yeah, it's good to
sponsor,
hear.
and he's doing the stuff that he needs to be doing.
Good.
So,
Good.
but no, there was a lot of crazy shit happened in that room with me and Tommy. Like some of the shit that he did in there, man, it's insane. Like, he decorated this room, right? Like so, everything was pretty plain, right? You got like a dresser, your bed, a nightstand,
Mhm.
and that's maybe a lamp or something in there. Like that's
Yeah.
about it, right? Well, that's not good enough for Tommy, right? So Tommy was like, you know what, man? Like we need to spruce it up in here. And I was like, bro, I don't care. It's like,
right.
I'm just trying to do my time and get the fuck out of here. So like gradually things just started appearing in our room. we got a portrait over here. We got plants, potted plants. Four alarm clocks. Um, all the yoga mats. We had all the yoga mats, all of them.
So he was just going around collecting shit
Bro,
throughout the building.
he was like that guy on American Pie. I think it was American Pie, or that kid that steals everything at the party. Do you know what I'm talking about? That one kid with the spiky hair and he's just like stealing shit throughout the whole thing. I think it was American Pie.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anyways, that's what he was doing. Like, and it looked like a hotel room. Yeah, I came in one day and was like, bro, what is all this? Like, what are we doing? And he's like, what? He's like, I'm trying to make it like home. And I was like, okay. And then, of course, they started noticing that things were missing.
Right.
And people in other rooms, like, where's my dresser?
Yeah.
They're like, where's my nightstand? Everybody's missing alarm clocks. Everybody's missing community in the mornings. We got all the alarm clocks. And we go to do yoga. And there's no mat.
They're all in your closet. Yeah.
I didn't know he had them yet. And I was like, "Are we gonna do yoga?" No, I was like, "Dude, where are the mats?" He was like, "They're in my bed." And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "I don't know." I was like, okay. So it was a pretty cool experience. So I'm glad I went, but it was, unfortunately, my perspective was a little warped. Like I thought, this is what I got to do, right? I just got to go to treatment. I'll take some of those suggestions, and I'll get a sponsor, and I'll take some of his suggestions. Right. I think what it really came down to, man, is I just wasn't ready yet. I didn't really believe that my life depended on doing all the things that I was told that I had to do. I kind of thought that I could skate by with just doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And that blew up to my face, pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I think you've said before, it was 8-9 months later?
Not even that. It was like 5.
And is that that's when you relapsed, or when you went to the Robert Alexander Center?
I think I relapsed probably. It was like the 4 to 5 month range.
Okay.
But my run that time was pretty short. It didn't last very long.
They typically get shorter.
Yeah,
as we go.
I just got caught.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah. I've shared on here before that that wasn't my my worst run, my worst detox, because it wasn't like my run didn't last very long, because everything caught up with me really quick. So it was maybe a month and a half long,
right,
that I was using. So like I said, it didn't take very long. So when I got out, I hit the ground running. I was doing all the things that I was supposed to do. Meeting with my sponsor, doing the step work, praying, going to meetings. I'm doing I'm staying in touch with people. I got a sober support group. There was a few core guys. There was like 4 of us from Landmark that I stayed in touch with. We would hit meetings together and stuff like that. So I was doing all the right things, and everything was going well. Like everything was going really good, actually. And then I got complacent. I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't need to do all this anymore. I thought I'm kind of making a big deal out of nothing. So those amends,
right.
Not really worried about that. So in the relapse, really, like it all, and this is always the case, right? It doesn't start with the drink or the first drug. It starts well before that.
Oh yeah.
And looking back, I can see that. I mean, I was doing like a lot of process addiction stuff, because I was a big snorter, right? Like snorted my pills, cocaine, snorted my meth, like my Suboxone, like I snorted everything,
right.
And I got to the point where I was started to snort like Tylenol and shit. Yeah, dude, crazy, right? Just because I wanted to snort something.
Right.
I was like, because in my mind, that was what the craving was. It wasn't, I'm not trying to get high. I just want to snort something. like it's that whole process of crushing something up.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and I did that for a week or two.
Yeah.
You know, and had terrible headaches. And
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
felt
sure
like
you
shit,
did.
and
Yeah.
felt like shit. You know, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
It's really stupid.
I get being addicted, like the process was addicted. Years ago, before I ever tried to get sober the first time, I was an IV user. So that process is just as addictive
Right.
as the heroin was,
Right.
getting it, the whole process of putting it in the spoon and getting it
Yeah.
ready and drawing it up in the needle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That
And
whole
I think it was
process.
just a way of my disease coming out. That's
Mhm.
what it was. It was like, but I'm justifying it in my head as I'm not getting high.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But I'm still,
Snorting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Snorting.
Crazy. I mean, it's stupid. You know, when I look back, I'm like, what was I doing? You
Yeah.
know, like, how did I think this was going to end up?
I'll
You
tell you,
know?
that just reminded me, like, so I remember being in jail, and I pretty much every time I was locked up, I would see people do it, and I was always just like, "What the fuck?"
What, coffee?
Yes,
Yeah.
snorting their instant coffee,
Mhm.
and I'm like, man, like that's crazy,
There were guys doing it at Landmark.
Yeah, like it.
Yeah.
I guess it's the same thing as the needle
Yeah.
process
It's
to
like, I
people
want to do
who,
something
yeah,
that's going to make me at least feel like I'm different, you
mhm,
know, and it was just stupid. And it led me back to, you know, what it always leads me back to, you
right,
know. So that run didn't last very long, you know, and there was still and because it starts with the behaviors, right, and the thinking, right. So the thinking's warped, and the behaviors are I'm being sneaky, you know, I'm hiding things, I'm being dishonest, and then it's just only a matter of time before I say fuck it,
yeah,
you know, and that's what happened. You know, I just finally said fuck
mhm,
it. So had a friend that um, we worked at Ford together, and we've been friends for a really long time, our whole life basically. And I would go over his house after work. We'd go over there and just hang out or whatever, and shoot the shit and stuff. And so I'd go over there, and he would always be drinking beer, smoking weed, and he had pain pills. He had a prescription for
mhm,
pain pills. And um, the first several times he would be like, "You want a beer?" I'd be like, "No, I'm good. I'm doing this
mhm,
sober thing. You know, I'm not drinking." He'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then he'd smoke and you want to hit this? You know, like no,
yeah,
you know, like I'm good. You know, but he didn't really understand.
yeah,
You know, like he just didn't understand it. He just thought it was a thing that I'm doing for a while. I'm just
mhm,
not doing it right now. You know,
right,
or that it's a problem to do it in front of me. You know, like
mhm.
it's not his responsibility. You know,
Yeah, you didn't
so
you didn't set that boundary,
yeah,
and
for
you were
sure,
putting yourself in that situation.
absolutely. You
Go to the
know,
barber shop, you're gonna get a haircut.
absolutely. So yeah, they gave me a tight fade.
Right.
You know, so um, so and then you know as time goes by, I'm still going over there every night. And when I had a rough night at work, and he was just like, "You want a beer?" And I was just like, "Yeah." Didn't
Mhm,
even think on it. I was just
yeah,
like, "Yeah, fuck it. I'm just
mhm,
gonna have one beer." And I just had one beer. So I'm like, this registered success to me,
mhm,
right? In my brain, okay, maybe you are good. Maybe you were making a big deal out of nothing because you just had one beer and you went home,
mhm,
right? I didn't go off the rails, you know, and just do a bunch of crazy shit. I just
yeah,
went home. You know, next night I go over there, you want a beer? Yeah. I end up having like four.
mhm,
And he's like, you want to smoke? Yeah. You know, now I'm smoking too, you know?
yeah,
And it's like, you want one of these pain pills? Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so
That's what I've
then,
been waiting for.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I thought you'd never ask. You had
yeah,
me at hello, you
yeah,
know, so it's just like it took off from there. And then it
mhm,
was just every day, you know, I'm drinking, I'm going over there just to drink, you know, like I'm coming up with a reason to go over there.
yeah,
Hey, you need help with your dryer? You know,
yeah,
like he's like, I'm
right.
working on my dryer. I'm like, you need some help? You
Yeah,
know, I'm gonna come over and drink, you know, I want
yeah,
to make sure I come home after Ashley is in bed,
of course.
you
Yeah,
know, because I can't come home until I know she's in bed, you
yeah,
know. I'm gonna sleep on the couch, you know. So I did all this sneaking around, you know, and I'm getting stuff from him. I'm stealing stuff from him, you know. I'm getting from people at work and wherever I
mhm,
can get stuff,
yeah,
you know. And it was just you know, and then it all came to a head where, you know, I got busted, you know, and I'm glad that I did because it was going nowhere fast,
Right.
you know. So that led to my second stint in inpatient treatment. And I was still kind of delusional at the time about needing to go. You
Right.
know, I was like, Ashley told me, she basically gave me an ultimatum of, she said, you need to go to treatment, you need to go back. And my response was, no, I think I just need to call my sponsor. You know, and she's like, well, you need to do that too,
Right.
you know, but
Yeah.
you need to go back. And I was like, it's not that bad. And she was like, you're stealing from your best friend. You know, you're lying to everyone. Like just the usual shit. Right.
Right.
I'm doing all this shady stuff. And so I ended up finally coming to terms with, yeah, you're right. You know, but she basically told me, she said, I said, are you making me go to treatment? She said, I'm not making you do anything. She said, but if you don't go, you ain't staying here. Like you got to go, and you're not going to see your daughter. You know, and I was like, okay. So that was kind of a catalyst of that and the situation with my friend being like this emotional bottom. I finally got to see like what I was doing, like what it was doing to me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go.
Right.
So I called Josh, you know, and we talked about it, and you know, I didn't go that day. This was a Saturday that it all went down.
Right.
So I called him and we met up on Sunday, and I'm detoxing, but mildly, you know, it's not terrible. And for some reason, we thought it was a good idea to go eat at Tumbleweed.
Oh yeah.
You know,
The
I'm like,
best of the best.
yeah, I'm like, let's go get some food poisoning to go along with my withdrawal symptoms.
Right.
You know, um, but so we did that, and you know, he made some phone calls, you know, to the people in admissions. And I told him, I was like, dude, I need to go back to treatment. I'm going back to Landmark. And he was like, I don't think that's a good idea. I was like, why? You know, like, why? And he was like, well, because you know all the people there. You know how things go there. You know how to manipulate the system there. You know, and he's like, I think you need to go somewhere where it's different, just a different experience. And I was like, man, I really don't care where I go. I
Right.
was like, I just need to go somewhere, and it needs to be somewhere that my insurance covers.
Yeah.
You know, so so I went to the Robert Alexander Center.
So, and obviously, that's, you know, I've been through the Robert Alexander Center, so I know how nice of a facility that is and what you
Yeah.
went into. So, what was that
Big
process?
shift.
Right. I
Yeah.
just for me being in like, well, Praxis, part of
Right.
Landmark's facility, to the Robert Alexander Center, it's a huge difference. So, what was the let's just start. What was the detox? How was the detox process different from REC versus the Landmark experience? What, or was there any difference?
Yeah. So when I went to Landmark,
Do they do medical
yes.
detox?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think Praxis does though, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
They did. It wasn't like a whole lot though.
Mhm.
Like my detox there was worse than the one I had at the Robert Alexander Center. You know, because that one was like a short run. You know, the one before that was like a 6-month run. You know, so that one was it was a lot of me just sleeping at Landmark. Like I just slept for days, you know. So at the Robert Alexander Center, I didn't really need
You actually slept?
Yeah.
Man.
Well, somewhat. I
I
stayed in my bed.
Yeah, let's say, yeah.
I stayed in my bed.
I don't think I've ever really slept
Yeah,
through
I
a
didn't sleep very
detox.
good because there was a guy in there. I had this roommate, and I thought he was a zombie because he just laid there and just groaned for like 4 days.
Right.
And I was like, fuck. It's like, this poor guy's going through it, man. And
That's my
Yeah.
withdrawal. I don't
So-
sleep at all.
so once again, like, I've had much worse detoxes
Yeah.
than that one because I tried to do it at home
Mhm.
one time, and that one was brutal.
Yeah.
Like that one, that was 20+ day detox.
And I think it's always worse to detox at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so much worse. So
Yeah, that was bad. I was detoxing off opiates and Suboxone,
oh yeah.
and that was almost a month long before I started to feel okay.
Mhm.
And I was going to IOP while detoxing,
Yeah.
driving there every day. It was I'm just sitting in group like, it's like shit.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I didn't get a
Oh
whole
yeah.
lot out of it. You know, so they kept saying, "Are you sure you don't need inpatient?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I feel great. You know,
Right.
no, I'm good." But the detox process for me was different at RAC because I wasn't real sick, you know. So, and Josh wouldn't allow me to just sit around and vegetate. You know, he wasn't like, "You're not taking advantage of this." He's like, "You're going to take advantage of this time that you have in detox. Like, you got a leg up on everybody here because you're not sick like they are.
Yeah.
So use that time, you know." And I made the at the time I thought it was a huge mistake because I made the mistake of telling him that I was bored.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Man, I'm bored. Like I don't have shit to do. Like I've been reading and stuff." And he was like, "Okay." He's like, "I'm about to smack you with some work." And I was like, "Whatever, dude." You know, and he gave me all this fucking work to do, bro. Like a lot.
Mhm.
I'm talking. It was like write 10 pages on the doctor's opinion, write 5 pages on the bill story, write 2 pages on each of the spiritual principles, right? It totaled up to be like 48 pages of writing, you know, on top of what he told my therapist to give me, which was like 20 something pages of writing.
Yeah.
Like, so I had like 60, 70 something pages of writing to do. Plus, I had to read all this stuff
Mhm.
to be able to write intelligently on it. Right.
Right.
So, and he was like, "You can't do it during group time, you know, you can only do it on your downtime." Right. So I was like, "All right." So it kept me busy while I was there. Right. People were like, "You want to go watch this movie?" Or I'm like, "No, man, I got to do this shit," you know. And I'm glad he did that because number one, it taught me that I got to make this a priority while I'm in here. Right. I'm not here to fuck around. Right.
Yeah.
And so I need to do this stuff. And I was so proud when I got it done. Right, I felt like I accomplished something. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
man, I was like, you gave
Absolutely.
me all this shit to do, you know, and this started like on the 7th day in, right? So I had like 3 weeks to get all this stuff done in my only in my free time, you know. So I was like really working hard on it to get it done, and I got it done, and I'm so proud, and I take it to him, and I'm like, I got it all done, man. I was like, we ready to go over this, and he was like, "No, that's for you." He said, "I
Yeah.
don't even need to see it." And I was like, "You motherfucker."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I just did all this shit." You know, and he was like, "Yeah, did you learn anything?" I was like, "Oh yeah." Like, I'm really glad that I did it, you know,
Mhm.
because I was taking advantage of my time there.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't just coasting,
Mhm.
you know, like I would have done, you know, or just gotten into the drama, the treatment center drama that's
Oh yeah.
always going on, you know. So it kept me out of that. You know, it kept me out of just wanting to punch somebody in the face.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
see,
because
and that I guess that's where my experience there was a little different because like I had a sponsor, but while I was there, I didn't speak to him.
right,
You know, I had a sponsor before I went in, and he was still my sponsor when I got out at the time. But I did that on my own. I didn't want, there was a lot of drama. There always is. But I remember like a lot of my free time, I would spend it in my room just reading, though, and journaling, you know, just making myself do something other than sitting around watching TV all day,
right.
you know. So,
Yeah, there was it was a totally different experience there, and I think a lot of that is because the atmosphere is different. You
mhm.
know, so it's a lot more comfortable there. You
Oh, yeah.
know, for
The
sure.
amenities, you know,
Yeah,
it's just,
that alone.
yeah.
You know, but it was. I think I was at a different place when I got there. You know, I've talked before that I was just like broken, you know, like, and I'm so blessed, dude. Like, so my therapist there, she's still my therapist today. Because I've always done this thing where I'll work with a therapist for like a month and then stop going and then get another one, have to start all over. And it was just like I'm constantly going over all the same stuff and I never make any progress. But I was able to work with her and she called me out from day one. She's like, "You're drunk." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah, you're right. It's like, okay, but she wouldn't let me get by with any of my bullshit.
Mhm.
Like I'd go in there and I'd try to complain about something, or, I talked to Ashley on the phone and she didn't respond in this way, and she didn't see how good I'm doing, and she was like, "Oh, whoa, 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 stop that shit."
Yeah.
Like stop, just stop. And she would hold me accountable, man.
Mhm.
Like she was a lot like him. Like she was kind of in my face, and I respond to that. Like people just walked around on eggshells around me for so long because they're so afraid of hurting my sensitive ass feelings
Yeah.
that when I finally got some people that were just like, "Hey, pull your head out, dude. Like, what are you doing?" You know, and I respond to that.
Yeah.
Like I respond really well to that.
A lot of us, that's what we need,
Yeah, for sure.
as addicts and alcoholics, because we were, like you said, our families, like everybody usually tiptoed around it for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most addicts and alcoholics,
Yeah.
from my experience, that's what
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen.
kind of bury their head in the sand. Like,
Yeah.
if I don't acknowledge it, then it's not real.
Exactly.
And I understand where they're coming
Mhm.
from, but it was just that didn't help me,
Mhm.
But she left there right before I discharged to go work at private practice,
Mhm.
so I was able to continue seeing her when I left. So I was able to continue the therapy and not start over again.
Right.
Because if I would have had to start over again, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Unless I found like the right person, you know what I mean? And so I've been working with her for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of at the point now where last time I saw her, she was like, "Do you really need to come here?" I was
Yeah.
like, "I like coming here."
Right.
It's like, probably not. But you never know. So it was pretty cool.
So as far as how was the characters between the two?
It's different.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
different. A little more hardcore at
At
Landmark.
Landmark.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit more hardcore. Also seemed like, for the most, well, I don't know, man. I would say the people at Landmark were a little more rough around the edges, but everybody, for the most part, got along with each other. But you always there's still a rapper
Oh yeah.
at every treatment center in America right now. There's probably some aspiring rapper.
Right. Right. Now that you mention that, we did this before with the roles reversed, where I kind of talked about my experience,
Right.
and you asked me if there was a rapper in my group, and I said not really. I couldn't think of it, but there was,
For sure there was.
and he was from New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
Because you worked there at the time and you did his intake. Do you
Oh, yeah.
remember
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I remember when he first came in, I was in detox, and it was like I had maybe a day or two left in detox. And I come back from group, and this guy's there, and he's got the TV blasting YouTube, and we're in detox. Keep in mind, he just comes in and he's dancing and bobbing to this music, and I'm like looking at the TV, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, that's him on the TV. I'm like, what?
Yeah, the music was terrible.
The music was terrible, but he was a rapper out of Jersey, and
Yeah.
like, I guess had all these music videos and all this stuff,
Yeah,
and
he
I
was
just,
something else.
yeah, he was
he was a character for sure.
yeah, and I remember he said he got caught with all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you're full of shit. But then come to find out, he
No,
really did.
He did.
Like,
Yeah, he was trying to sneak in a lot of shit.
yeah,
Like we just kept finding stuff. I was like, holy shit! Like this guy's
Yeah.
got a pharmacy.
yeah,
Like he had weed. He had like an ounce of weed
right. Like, where are you going to
In
use
his
that
shoe.
at? Yeah.
in his extra shoes. It
Yeah.
was just stuffed underneath the insole, and it was like this huge lump in there. I was like, Eric was going to it, and he was like, "Something's wrong with it. Does he like these orthopedic shoes?" And I was like, "No,
Like,
man,
no.
lift that up." And he lifted it up. He was like, "That's marijuana." And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
And we
well,
found Suboxone, like a big old bottle of Suboxone.
Mhm.
And he had fentanyl. Like he just had all kinds of shit, dude. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
yeah. I just remember he wasn't there very long,
No,
and before he got kicked out.
yeah.
But yeah.
So we did have a guy move into our room at Landmark. I think I told you this story about the jockey. Ever tell you about the story about the jockey?
I don't think so.
So
Maybe.
this guy, they moved him. He was an alcoholic, and they moved him from detox over to residential too soon.
Mhm.
So he was going through like delirium tremens, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he's hallucinating, but we don't know this, right? Because he seems normal. He's a jockey, a little bitty guy.
Yeah.
And so he moves into our room. There's three of us in this room, and just laying there at night, like middle of the night. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And next thing you know, I just hear him talking. And I'm like, I thought he had a phone. Like, this guy got a fucking phone. And so my other roommate, Tommy, hadn't moved in yet. This other guy, Nick, and he kind of sat up and we kind of looked at each other like across the room, like, is he on the phone? Is he on the phone? And next thing you know, this guy just jumps up and he thinks he's in a horse barn, right? And he's like, "Save the horses!" He's like freaking out, right? And he thinks the place is on fire, like legitimately thinks the place is on fire.
Right.
And I forget what the name of the horse was, but he kept saying, "Save this horse!" Like he kept saying it, and I was like, "Who the hell is that?" It's like, what's going on?
Right.
And he's trying to he's beating on the window, and they're going to burn alive, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I went and ran and got a nurse. I was like, "Hey, this dude's freaking the fuck out." And she came in there and she's like, well, at first she was like, "He'll be all right. Just let him be." And I was like, "No, like, come get this guy."
Yeah.
So they came and got him and sedated him and put him back in detox or whatever. No, they just put him on like some Ativan. That's what they did. They gave him some Ativan to calm him down.
Yeah.
And then so we wake up in the morning and it's time to go to community. So we're sitting in community and he comes strolling in there.
Like nothing happened.
Like nothing happened,
Yeah.
but he's butt naked. and he walks in and he just takes his seat on the couch, just sits there and he's butt naked and just sitting there like, "What's up?" And everybody's like, "What the fuck is going on here?" So I go get the nurse, like, so and so, I forget his name. He had like a German name. It started with a G. It wasn't Gustav. It was something like that. But anyways, yeah, so he's butt naked. And they take him, and I think they end up sending him off to the hospital or something. It was just fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's
It
funny.
was craziness. We had this one guy so there was always more shit popping off there because people weren't watched as closely.
Right.
We had this one guy who broke out every day. It's like he would, there was so-and-so hopping the fence again. He'd hop the fence. He would run to Walgreens and then it was Rite Aid. He would run to Rite Aid. I think it was Rite Aid. He'd run there, call somebody to come pick him up. They'd say, "Fuck no." And they'd call the treatment center. And, "We got to go get so-and-so. He's at Rite Aid again." They'd go up there and get him. They'd bring him back. And then he'd walk out to the patio area and then go jump the fence again and run to Rite Aid and I could call somebody else.
Yep.
And they go get him. And it was like every day. He was out there climbing trees and shit, trying to get on the roof. It's like, dude, just leave.
Yeah.
Just go somewhere different
Yeah.
than Rite Aid.
Yeah.
He would ask for money, like, "Man, you got some money I can borrow?" Like, "We're in treatment. Why do you need money?" Like, "Because I'm about to leave. I'll get you back though." Like, "I don't know you.
Never
Like,
see
this
you
guy was
again.
from, like Michigan. It was like,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it was good times.
Yeah. So it's crazy to think that, I had some great times in rehab.
Dude, I did
Some of
too.
the craziest belly laughs
Mhm.
and just nonsense, and So
Mark Druck and me and Mark, rest his soul. We would just crack up, dude. Me and
oh
him,
yeah,
like, we would sit in group, and you know how we usually have like they're not assigned seats, but you always sit like in the same
oh,
place,
right, right.
and we would always sit like right across from each other, and just shit would just happen, and we would not even have to say anything. I'd just look at him, and he'd look at me, dude, and we just start laughing. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Well,
It was just crazy stuff. Like,
yeah, and I had a lot of good times with Mark as well. We grew up together,
right.
and then my last stint in treatment, he was my roommate there as well. So I get it. We had the same
Yeah.
experiences, and it was awesome.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of stuff that not a lot really happened at RAC that I can remember. I'm sure stuff did, but because I worked there too, like a lot of stuff kind of
Mixes
mixes
together.
together. Um, I don't know, but I think treatment, we have to understand, like, if you go into treatment with the mindset of what it is and not what it's not, like, you'll get a lot more out of it.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, like, treatment isn't a cure for your disease.
Not at all.
Right. So if we go into treatment thinking this is going to fix me, then I'm good. Right. And we see that a lot. So we're involved, or we were involved in that group chat, the alumni chat.
Oh, yeah.
You'd see a lot of that stuff in there where people would say, like, I don't know exactly what they would say, but it would be to the effect of, I need to go over to RAC to get well, or to fix me, or whatever. I went to RAC and I've relapsed. It's like, well, because that's just a beginning.
Yeah, I
Treatment
mean,
is a place for you to get on your feet again,
yeah,
so that you can re-enter life.
yeah. Treatment on
You know,
it, like, yeah, you can learn a lot there.
but it doesn't treat your disease.
No, and the main thing there is to separate you from the substance.
Get detox.
Get detox, let the fog clear.
Yeah,
Get your mind clear again. But you have to take the action after treatment.
for sure.
Yeah.
Like that's where it really begins.
Hmm.
We were up there last weekend, and a guy said he's leaving. I think he said he was leaving Thursday. Yesterday. So I guess he got out yesterday.
Yeah.
And he was saying, "I'm scared to death."
Yeah, that was great to hear.
And I told him flat out. I said, "That's a good thing.
Hmm.
You should be scared because this thing wants to fucking kill you.
Yeah.
You should be scared. I worry about the people that aren't scared
Mhm.
when they leave, because that means they think they've got this shit all figured out.
Yep.
Oh, when this happens, I'm going to go to my trunk and I'm going to get my relapse prevention packet out, go to page 16,
Yeah.
look up there, I'm good. Here's what I do in this situation. That don't happen.
No,
That's
at all.
never happened.
No.
Like, I've never looked at one of those packets after I left. I'm just being honest,
Yeah.
like, I haven't, like,
Mhm.
that was the thing they did at Landmark. It was like, we're going to go over your relapse prevention plan. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to do any of this shit. Like, I might do some of it, but I'm not going to read this packet.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think I ever kept the packet.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they were in the trash on my way out the
Yeah,
door.
like, I'll give this. Yeah, I'll give this to somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stuff, like relapse prevention, right? That in itself is an oxymoron, right? Because that means that I believe that I can keep myself sober,
Right.
right? So if this happens, I do this.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, like there's tools, there's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's strategies and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that stuff's not going to hold off
Mhm.
addiction.
No.
A coping skills are great. We need to have coping skills, right? But those are more geared towards helping me just get through everyday life and be a productive member of society, and not to treat my addiction.
Mhm.
And that's where I think a lot of people go wrong, is I've always thought it's kind of funny that when you go through treatment, you spend all this time talking about coping skills, triggers, relapse prevention, um, life skills, all these different things, right? And those are all valuable. Those all have value. But you talk about all those, but then when you leave, what do they tell you to do? You need to work the steps, get a sponsor, get a home group. It's like, okay, well, that's totally different than what we've been talking about for 30 days.
Right.
You know, so, and I understand there's a business aspect to it. Like, they can't
Mhm.
bill for that stuff. And it's not just one treatment center that does it like that. Like, almost all of them do, right? Um, but this thing isn't a behavioral problem. For some people, it is because they're not the real alcoholics or addicts. Um, but that kind of stuff treats behavior, right? So my problem is not behavioral, right? I have bad behaviors as a result,
Mhm.
but my problem isn't my behavior. You know, my problem isn't a moral issue. It's the fact that I have this spiritual disease, you know, coupled with a physical allergy and a mental obsession. Like, that's my problem. That's why they tell us, you know, or tell you when you leave to work steps, get a sponsor, things like that. But I think a lot of people get out of treatment and that kind of, they gloss over that. It goes over their head and they think, well, you know, I did treatment. So therefore, things are going to be different. And they might be for a while. You know, that you might be able to hold it together for a while, just riding the coattails off what you did in treatment, right?
Yeah.
The work you did there. But it's just been in my own experience that after a while that window closes, you know, and eventually the pain of being sober is going to outweigh the pain of using again.
Yeah.
And once that happens, I'm lost.
Yeah. I've
know?
been there, so
Yeah.
I get
Once
that.
that happens, it's a wrap, man.
Mhm.
It's like I'm going to use. You know, we can see it on people now.
Mhm.
You know, like, well, that guy's. You know, that we give out chips to um, recognize periods of sobriety at meetings, right? You know, 30-day chip, 60-day chip, 90-day chip, whatever. It would be kind of cool if they gave out one for the people that are in their last 30 days. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like you can only spot them. You know, it's like just ask
Yeah.
them how they're doing.
Mhm.
You know, fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
They finger
Yeah.
face that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, shit,
Yeah.
man. You sure you're okay? You
Yeah.
seem like a ticking time bomb. Like, you see, like, we can all see it. You know,
Mhm.
we can all, the writing's on the wall, all the behaviors are there and everything, but, you know, I guess what I'm basically just trying to say is treatment alone is not enough.
Yeah.
If you're a
Absolutely.
real addict or alcoholic,
Mhm.
treatment's not enough. For most of us, it's necessary. And I think if you have the opportunity to go, you should
Yeah.
take
I
advantage of that and you should go.
always recommend it to anyone,
For sure.
that's
Yeah.
looking to stop using, whether they're
Yeah.
in your situation, like you said, where the detox isn't that bad. I always recommend it because it's
Yeah.
such a good experience as well to have,
Yeah. And it's,
because it helps with so many things. It starts to teach you how to, obviously it like we mentioned, it separates you from the substance for, this 30-day,
Right.
60-day period, whatever it is. It lays some good, the fog gets lifted, your mind, you're thinking clearly again.
Mhm.
You get a little bit of foundation to stand on to go and actually get involved in recovery.
right.
But then it also teaches you about some fellowship
Mm-hmm.
and how to talk to other people without being under the influence, and how to deal with
How to communicate.
different people.
Yeah.
Because in
Oh,
AA
yeah.
or NA, where whatever you choose to do, that
The world.
yeah, that
Yeah.
you're dealing with so many different people, and you get to learn how to do that there as well. So it's very. I always recommend treatment, no matter what.
Yeah.
I would always recommend
Another
it.
good thing about it is it teaches you those consequences to your actions.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was working there, I would do this group and we would go over consequences, like things that our addiction has cost us. you know, and one that people would always leave off would be being in rehab. Like, and I would always have to bring it up, like, what about rehab? Is that a consequence for you? Like, you're away from your family, you're not making any money, you're not at work, you know, people are worried about you, like all this stuff. And you got to
Yep.
be here with all these other
Mhm.
knuckleheads, you know, you got to be
Yep.
somewhere. Do you want to be here? No. So this is a consequence for your actions, right? You got to treat it as that. Like, you got to treat it like it's your job. You know, same way with your recovery. You got to treat it like it's your job.
Yeah.
Like, this is my job. This is what I have to do. If I want to get all the benefits of having a job, then I have to show up and do my job.
Mhm.
You know, that's how I get paid. You know, so I don't know. I think it's necessary for most people.
Mhm.
You know, so one of the things that, and you kind of just touched on this, that I struggled with in in treatment was tolerance of other people. You
Yeah.
know, I really struggled. I almost got. I thought I was gonna get kicked out of Landmarks. I almost got in a fist fight with a guy because I was just. I could not understand people not taking it serious,
Mhm.
even though I relapsed. You know, but while I'm there, I'm like, I'm trying to take it serious. You
Yeah.
know, and same thing at RAC. I was like, people be acting a fool in group, or you know, treating the techs like shit. You know,
Mhm.
like I was very intolerant of that. Like I didn't like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if you don't want to be here, fucking leave. You
Right.
know, just leave. Like, you're not mandated by the court to be here.
Right.
You can leave. You know, they're going to try and make you stay, but you can leave if you don't want to be here that bad. Like,
Yeah.
if you're taking someone else's seat,
Mhm.
is kind of the way I looked at it. So I really struggled with tolerance. And that was something that, or Josh made me write 5 pages on, was tolerance. You know, I may have hanging on, because I'd go to him and be like, dude, this motherfucker. Like, I can't stand this guy. Like, all right, you will go right on it. Like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, why do I keep talking to my sponsor? You know,
Right.
like, when am I going to learn my lesson, right? Because we had those, most treatment centers have it on the wall. It's like on the beam, off the beam, you know, have like like behaviors of when you're on the beam, right? Honest, stuff like that. And, modesty or whatever, and then off the beam will be what dishonest or laziness or whatever it is. And he had me write on those. You know, he was like, give me a page on every one of them on both sides. And I was like, fuck, that's like another 20 pages.
Right.
And I was like, God damn. You know, just constantly writing. My hands are strong though.
Yeah.
You know, my right hand pencil going, you know, but yeah, I mean, it was a good experience. You know, I think a lot of times people at that facility in particular, because it's so nice, don't know how good they have it.
Yeah.
You know, and Nate used to always say, like, I don't think this should be anyone's first experience in
Mhm.
treatment, because you walk in and you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like, I have arrived.
Mhm.
You know, I couldn't believe it when I packed to go there. I asked Josh, I said, what all do I need to bring? You know, and I'm thinking like some ramen noodles, you know,
Right.
stuff like that. And he was like, underwear, shirt, pants, socks. And I was like,
Yeah.
but what about like food and stuff like that? Is there like a commissary? You know, because that's kind of that's
Right.
what it was like at Landmark.
Yeah.
You know, like people could drop you off stuff,
Mhm.
but you couldn't they didn't just have that stuff around.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, no, we have all that stuff there. And I walked in, I was like, holy shit. Like, there's like drinks.
Yeah,
Like, I don't have to pay for these.
We got, you know, fountain
Brownies,
drinks
you
just
know,
right here.
I was like, I'm
and-
gonna get fat as fuck, boy.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
did.
yeah.
You know, I think I was like 220 when I left there. I went
Yeah.
in at like 200 pounds. You know, like 220 when I left. I was like, fuck, I gained 20 pounds in this bitch.
Right.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
But no, it was cool, man. Like, it's a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can look back on it now and like, it wasn't that bad. Not like I thought it was at the time.
Right.
You know, but you know, things are different now.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, you got anything else you want to?
Um, put me on the spot here. I don't know. Just kind of reiterate, like, if you have a chance at all to go to treatment, and So here are the normal excuses why you can't go to treatment, right? My job, I got bills, my kids, um, people are going to find out. All that's
I got a vacation coming up.
yeah, all that stuff's bullshit
Mhm.
because all of that stuff is going to be gone if you don't do it.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to lose my job, bro. You're losing that job anyways. Let's be real. Like that job's going to be gone in a matter of time, no time at all. You keep going the way you're going, the job's gone. But my kids need me. Like, oh, you ain't been there.
Yeah.
Like,
Do they
shut,
really?
shut
Do
up.
they?
Shut, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
They're going to sleep better than they have in years
Yeah.
because you're there. You know, so stop making excuses. I guess would be my thing. Is like, just go. You know, what's the worst thing that can? I mean, you're not going to get fired. If you do, okay. So,
Yeah.
dude,
Get another job.
that just reminded me of something that I was talking to this guy one time. We're out in the smoking area. This is when I worked there, and he's telling me he's going through it, right? Like he's just struggling. He's telling me about how much he hates his fucking job. I hate my job. I hate my job. I can't. I don't want to work another minute there. And I was just like, okay, like we're just talking, and then case manager comes out. I need to talk to him. It's like, okay. She talks to him. He just lost his job.
Now he's freaking out because he lost his
yeah.
job.
I can't believe God would do this to me and take this. I'm like, oh, hold on, bro.
Yeah.
You were just talking about how you hated this job. Now you're suicidal because
Yeah.
you lost this job that you hate. Like, get the fuck out.
That's just the unregulated emotions at the time. You know what I mean?
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna maybe just think of that, but it's just like, okay, maybe you don't need that. Maybe it's God's way of helping you because you weren't going to quit that job on your own.
Right.
You know, so maybe you just got a little favor from the big guy upstairs. You know, he did for you what you can't do for yourself.
Yeah,
that's
what it sounds like.
But no, man, just my thing would be just quit making excuses. You know, do it. Just do it. You know, it's just like with anything else we talk about. Take the action. Do it. Have a little bit of willingness. You know, because you're only going to get out of treatment whatever you're willing to put into it. It's just like anything else.
Yep.
You know, so that's about it, man.
All right.
All I got.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks, guys.